Naira, the Folly of Nagakhêdi.
Tier 2 walkthrough.
In many aspects, this boss is very similar to what you are already familiar with on Tier 1. First, a quick recap of the mechanics that you should already be familiar with from Tier 1. Great Roar. Every 30 seconds, the boss will perform his Great Roar attack. This attack is room-wide and cannot be avoided. It knocks everyone away from the boss and deals noticeable damage, especially if the yellow and red mushrooms have been done incorrectly. Shortly after the Great Roar, the boss will perform the Eruption skill. This attack is likely to kill you if you are not protected by the Acrid Coat Shield. Every time you get knocked away from the boss, you should immediately run into the acid water and back out. This applies a 15 seconds protection shield. About 2 seconds later, the boss will perform Eruption. Make sure you do not stand in the acid water more than you need to, as doing so will continuously deal damage over time. Next is the disease effect. Hopefully, this is something you have already mastered from Tier 1. When the disease is cleansed, or when it expires, it spawns a small puddle that grows larger in 3 steps. It's important to be intentional in your placement of these puddles. Otherwise, you will find that the room will be full of puddles as the fight progresses. Run to the edges of the room to drop the puddle. Do not drop it in the group. This just complicates the fight. One thing that is very important to know is that when you cleanse your disease, everyone within 20 meters of you take 50% of their maximum health as acid damage. This is before mitigation, so the actual damage taken is closer to 25%. One cleanse can be fine. However, if 4 people all have the disease at the same time and all of them cleanse, a lot of people are likely to die. This can be completely avoided. All you have to do is simply not cleanse. Yes, do not cleanse the disease. When it expires by itself, it will still drop the puddle that grows larger, so make sure to drop it at the edge of the room. However, the big difference is that when the effect expires by itself, no one takes the 50% acid damage hit. If you use a tracker, you can see when the effect expires. With a bit of practice, you will know how long it takes you to run from the boss into the edge of the room. That way, when the timer reaches, say, 3 seconds, you run to the edge, let the effect expire, and run back to the boss. It's a very good idea to dip your toes in the acid water before you run away to drop a disease. That way, you will always be protected from the big eruption hit, in case the boss does it while you are far away. The volatile mushrooms spawn randomly throughout the room. About 25 seconds after they spawn, they will explode and apply the disease effect to anyone within 2 meters of it. If someone is within close range of them, they will explode sooner. You have about 3 seconds to get away from it before it explodes and spreads its disease, so make sure you move away from it as soon as it spawns. On Tier 2, the fight requires 2 tanks. The boss has a tank buster skill, Putrid Expulsion. Every 16 seconds, this effect tiers up. It's recognized by a green effect under your vitals, Corrosive Spew. The effect lasts for 30 seconds. Tier 1 is harmless, but Tier 2 is death. In principle, this is rather easy to deal with. The tanks simply have to juggle aggro every time the effect is applied to them. Once the boss vomits on you, call out to the other tank that they have to take aggro. It is safe to take the boss, even if you still have time left on your Corrosive Spew effect. It will expire before the boss can apply a new one to you. Putrid Expulsion will hit anyone in front of the boss in an 80-degree arc from himself. That means it's important the tanks do not stay in the same place when the boss vomits. If a tank gets one shot, then you know they messed up. It could be they stood too close, or that the other tank didn't take aggro in time. As a tank, you need to turn the boss away from the mushrooms when they spawn, to avoid your debuffer being hit by Corrosive Spew and other frontal attacks. Whichever tank does not have aggro should run around in the room and trigger the volatile mushrooms, making sure the space near the group is clear. Whenever you have aggro, it is crucial that you do not step away from the boss. Moving out of range from the boss is likely to make him turn around to the group and smack them. The boss is stationary the first 50% and does not move. Next up are the Colourful Mushrooms. Throughout the fight, 4 mushrooms will spawn. There will always be at least 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 yellow. The 4th mushroom will be a duplicate of one of these. The red mushroom gives 10% outgoing damage and 30% outgoing healing. The yellow mushroom gives 10% maximum morale. The blue mushroom gives 10% less incoming damage. When Lirith spawns the mushrooms, you have about 10 seconds to pick them up before the boss picks them up himself if they are within range of him. Failing to pick them up will buff the boss in various ways. One of your debuffers will pick up one of each color and then run behind the group and use all 3 mushrooms in succession. Using the mushrooms gives different beneficial effects to those within range. It's important not to be too close to the boss when using the mushrooms, as this will also apply the effects to him, the same as if they weren't picked up in time. For the boss himself, some of these effects are slightly different. At the same time, the effects stack, which means he can possess several red mushrooms. The red mushrooms gives him 10% more damage per tier. The yellow mushrooms makes Great Roar do 25% more damage per tier. The blue mushrooms make him take less damage per tier. The splash range of the mushrooms is about 10 meters. Until you learn the range of the mushrooms, it can be a good idea to use the red or yellow mushroom first, as these are the least punishing. If you hit the boss, simply take a step further back, and then use the other 2. The group needs to make sure that they are not standing inside the hitbox of the boss, otherwise they will not be in range of the mushroom buffs. This is rather self-explanatory, but should be mentioned nonetheless. Your debuffer won't be able to hit you, but not hit the boss if you stand that close. At no point should you pick up more than 3 mushrooms at a time. The 4th mushroom will need to be picked up by someone else. This can either be the other debuffer or whichever tank isn't currently holding aggro. This 4th mushroom, often referred to as the duplicate, needs to be used far away from the boss and other players. If at any point anyone is hit by the same effect twice within 30 seconds, they die. That means if you already have the effect from, say, the blue mushroom, and someone uses a blue mushroom near you, you die. Using all 3 mushrooms in quick succession combines them into a strong buff called Blight Mastery. This effect cannot appear on the boss. Having the Blight Mastery effect means you currently have the red, blue, and yellow mushroom effect, which by extension means if anyone should use a mushroom near you, then you die. Make sure that Blight Mastery has expired before you use the next set of mushrooms on the group. You have 10 seconds to use the mushrooms from your skill bar before they are automatically used. Letting it time out from your skill bar will still splash the effect in a 10-meter radius around you. It can be helpful to call out which mushroom color is the duplicate one. The first 50% of the boss fight, it is always safe to pick up the next set of mushrooms when they spawn. However, you might have to wait a couple of seconds before you use them if, for example, the previous set spawned far away and the new set spawned close to the group, in which case the previous set of mushrooms was used a bit later and might still have a few seconds left of its effect. Once the boss reaches 50%, he is freed and will follow the tank. Some groups keep the tank in the middle of the room throughout the fight, and some groups move him into the different quadrants. After the boss is freed, the room will begin filling up with a large acid cloud. The cloud eliminates a quarter of the room each time, and spawns in whichever quarter the boss is currently standing. This happens every 60 seconds, which means you now have about 4 minutes to kill the boss before the entire room is filled with a nasty acid cloud that deals significant damage. Keeping the boss in the middle makes it difficult to predict where the acid cloud will spawn, but it might not be an issue for your group. Even if you can survive the acid cloud for a bit, he will eventually jump high up in the air and land on the ground in a fatal attack for the group. If the DPS is not good enough, or when the boss has received too many blue mushroom effects, this will happen. Once the boss is freed, he will apply a tiered corruption to himself every 30 seconds. It boosts his damage, so make sure to remove it. These last 50%, mushrooms will continue to spawn roughly every 20 seconds. However, they now only spawn 1 at a time, and not necessarily in a helpful order. 2 blue mushrooms might spawn in a row, and thus the person doing the duplicate mushrooms during the first phase of the boss will have to take this mushroom away from the group. If you are the dedicated duplicate picker-upper, make sure that you stand far enough away from the other mushroom junkie so that you aren't hit by the effect. That's all for now. Best of luck to you and your group.